Pressure does not create the man, it reveals him. Every silent moment before you react is a test few notice and fewer pass. Your chest tightens, your jaw locks, your mind accelerates, yet nothing outside you has actually touched you. This is not a flaw, it is a signal, one you can obey or master. Calm is not personality, calm is control, and control is learned. Lesson 1. The first rule for staying calm under pressure is understanding the illusion that calm means weakness. The title is not decorative. Calm is control. Under pressure, most men mistake volume for power. They raise their voice, speed their movements, tighten their posture, show their teeth through words. They believe intensity earns respect. Yet every outburst is evidence of being governed by the moment rather than governing it. A man who cannot hold himself steady when provoked is not strong. He is accessible. He can be pushed, pulled, triggered, redirected. Pressure does not break him. It operates him. Consider a crowded office where a deadline collapses and voices rise. One man starts pacing, another interrupts every sentence, another slams a drawer too hard. The room vibrates with urgency. And then there is one who remains still, breathing unchanged, eyes attentive, voice measured. No theatrics, no rush. Others assume he is detached or indifferent. They confuse stillness with passivity. But he is the only one actually choosing his actions rather than spilling them. He is not frozen, he is contained, and containment is power. Calm is not weakness, it is leverage. Pressure reveals habits. If your habit is to react, pressure will make you reactive. If your habit is to remain steady, pressure will make you immovable. The difference is trained long before the moment arrives. A man who equates calm with softness will always feel compelled to prove himself. He will speak louder than necessary. He will explain himself when silence would have sufficed. He will show agitation to demonstrate concern. He believes stillness signals incompetence, but history has already tested this pattern. Those who command the room rarely announce their authority. They occupy it. Imagine a confrontation in traffic. Another driver shouts, gestures, invites escalation. One response is to mirror the aggression, to prove dominance with noise. The other is to look forward, hands steady, expression neutral, pulse unaltered. Which man is ruled by the other? Which one is free? The one who refuses to dance to another's rhythm, the one who understands that control is not granted by force, but by refusal to surrender inner stability. Men are taught to equate emotion with honesty, explosion with authenticity. But emotional leakage is not sincerity. It is lack of containment. A vessel that spills at the first shake was never strong. The disciplined man does not suppress feeling. He organizes it. He decides when it is useful and when it is indulgent. He does not announce every inner tremor. He allows pressure to pass over him like wind over stone, leaving no fracture visible to those who would test him. A calm exterior is not a mask, it is architecture, built slowly, maintained daily, tested without warning. Under pressure, the world does not need your noise, it needs your steadiness. And whether you can provide that depends on what you believe calm truly represents, when everything in you demands reaction, when every instinct urges display, when the moment tries to pull you out of yourself and into its chaos, where your breath becomes the only border between impulse and action, and the space inside that border becomes the territory you either own or abandon without ever realizing the transaction taking place. Lesson 2. The second rule for staying calm under pressure is recognizing why pressure exposes the untrained mind. Calm is control, and control cannot exist where the mind has never been disciplined. Most men believe they will rise to the occasion when stress arrives. They imagine strength appears on demand. But pressure does not create new capacity. It reveals existing structure. If the mind has been left unattended, scattered, overstimulated, constantly reacting to noise, pressure will simply pull the wiring into view. Watch a man faced with sudden responsibility, a financial threat, a public mistake, a relationship on the edge. His thoughts sprint ahead of reality. Catastrophe appears fully formed before evidence arrives. His breathing shallows, his voice speeds up. He speaks in fragments. He seeks reassurance without asking for it. Nothing outside has concluded yet, but inside, the collapse is already complete. This is not bad luck. It is an undisciplined mind running without a governor. Pressure is a mirror that does not lie. The trained mind behaves differently. It does not deny risk. It does not pretend confidence. It simply refuses to manufacture conclusions before facts arrive. It allows silence between stimulus and response. That silence is not empty. It is processing space. It is the difference between a man who is happening to events and a man who is shaping them. One is flooded, the other is informed. Consider a father whose child falls and cries. One man panics, voice rising, hands shaking, transferring fear directly into the child. Another kneels, checks calmly, speaks slowly, breath steady. The child's nervous system follows the parents. This is not personality. This is training. The child learns whether the world is stable or chaotic by watching the adult's reaction. Pressure teaches nothing. It displays everything. The modern mind is rarely trained. It is fed constant stimulation, notifications, opinions, outrage, urgency. It becomes accustomed to reaction as default mode. When real pressure arrives, it behaves exactly as practiced, instantly, emotionally, noisily. A man who cannot sit in silence cannot stand in crisis. A man who cannot control his attention cannot control his reaction. The training ground for pressure is always the ordinary moment. How you handle inconvenience is how you will handle catastrophe. A delayed flight, a slow cashier, a disagreement that bruises pride. Each moment offers rehearsal. Most waste it. They indulge irritation. They rehearse loss of control. They practice agitation until it becomes instinct. Then they are surprised when true pressure arrives and the body obeys the only program it knows. The disciplined man notices this. He uses small irritations as training weights. He feels the surge and does not obey it. He observes the impulse to react and lets it expire without action. This is not suppression. It is selection. He chooses which signals deserve embodiment. Over time, the mind learns that pressure is not an alarm requiring immediate discharge. It is information requiring interpretation. And so, when larger pressure arrives, his nervous system recognizes the pattern. It slows instead of accelerates. It listens instead of spills. It calculates instead of collapses. Others see composure. He experiences clarity. Calm is not something he reaches for. It is what remains when chaos finds nothing loose to grab inside him, nothing dangling, nothing desperate for release, only a quiet interior that has already faced itself enough times to know that no external force is worth surrendering that ground. Lesson 3. The third rule for staying calm under pressure is understanding the cost of reacting too fast. Calm is control, and speed is often the thief of control. Most men are proud of quickness. Quick answers, quick decisions, quick defenses. They believe immediacy signals competence. But a reaction is not an action. A reaction belongs to the event. An action belongs to the man. When you respond before you have chosen, you have already surrendered authority to whatever provoked you. Picture a meeting where criticism appears unexpectedly. One man answers instantly, voice sharpening, posture shifting forward, words rushing to reclaim dignity. He believes he is defending himself, but he is merely showing where he can be pierced. The critic now owns the tempo. Another man hears the same words. He pauses, he breathes once, he considers. When he speaks, it is deliberate. Not long, just placed. The room feels the difference. One was triggered, the other decided. Speed is not mastery. Timing is mastery. The body reveals this truth. Under pressure, the nervous system seeks discharge. Muscles tense, breath shortens. The mind produces narratives at high velocity. The urge to speak, to move, to strike, to flee appears urgent. Acting on that urgency feels like relief, but relief is not resolution. It is leakage. You feel lighter afterward because you have lost something. Composure, credibility, optionality. Once words leave the mouth, they cannot be recalled. Once posture collapses, it cannot be unseen. Once aggression appears, it cannot be unregistered by those who witnessed it. There is a silent cost to immediate reaction. It teaches others how to steer you. They learn your threshold. They learn your triggers. They learn how to pull your strings with minimal effort. A man who reacts quickly advertises his levers. A man who pauses conceals them. Mystery is not manipulation. It is protection. Consider negotiation. One side raises stakes suddenly, applies urgency, threatens withdrawal. The reactive man counters immediately, offers concessions, speaks faster, signals anxiety. The other side smells leverage. The disciplined man hears the same tactic and allows silence to stretch. He asks one slow question. He takes a note. He breathes. The urgency dissolves. The one who introduced pressure now feels it. Control has shifted without a word of force. The same law applies in relationships. An accusation arrives. The reactive man defends instantly, volume rising, explanations overflowing. He seems guilty, even if innocent. The calm man asks what is truly being asked. He answers only that. Nothing more, nothing decorative. His restraint communicates stability. His partner feels grounded even in disagreement. He has not avoided conflict. He has governed it. Fast reaction feels natural because the mind seeks to protect identity. Any perceived threat to status, pride, image, or safety triggers instant mobilization. But identity that must be defended immediately is fragile. The man who does not require immediate defense demonstrates quiet confidence. He trusts that time will reveal what impulse cannot. One breath is often the difference between dignity and regret. This pause is not hesitation, it is authorship. In that space, you step out of automatic behavior and into chosen behavior. You become the kind of man for whom pressure is not a command, but a request. A request you may accept or decline. And as you practice this delay, moment by moment, conversation by conversation, inconvenience by inconvenience, your presence begins to feel immovable to others, not because you force it, but because you no longer give yourself away at the first sign of friction, leaving only considered action where chaos expected a reaction and found none. Lesson 4. The fourth rule for staying calm under pressure is learning to slow the moment before response. Calm is control, and control begins where time seems to stretch. Most men believe they are trapped inside the pace of events. They feel life rushing at them, deadlines collapsing, arguments igniting, accidents unfolding. They assume the tempo is imposed from outside, but the perception of speed is internal. Two men can face the same event. One experiences panic, the other experiences space. The difference is the trained ability to slow the instant between stimulus and decision. When pressure hits, the body wants to sprint. Heart rate climbs, muscles prepare, vision narrows, thoughts condense into urgency. This is survival architecture, useful when escaping physical danger, destructive when navigating social or psychological threat. The modern battlefield is not teeth and claws, it is reputation, money, family stability, personal dignity. Sprinting here usually means saying or doing something that cannot be reversed. A man who stays calm under pressure has learned to create an inner deceleration. He hears the insult and does not let it land immediately. He receives the bad news and does not collapse into forecast. He feels the spike of emotion and does not obey it. To outsiders, this appears like slow motion. In reality, it is expanded awareness. He notices details others miss. The tone behind the words, the motive beneath the action, the opportunity hidden inside the disturbance. Slow is smooth. Smooth is decisive. Consider an emergency at work. A system crashes. Clients wait. Voices rise. The reactive mind grabs the first solution and executes loudly. It feels like leadership, but haste often compounds error. The calm man says, "Give me 1 minute." He looks. He asks one precise question. He identifies the actual fault instead of the visible symptom. His solution appears slower, but lands correctly. Others worked hard. He worked accurately. The same principle appears in personal confrontation. Someone raises their voice. Their words sharpen. They want escalation. The untrained man matches energy. He accelerates. Soon, both are prisoners of momentum. The trained man softens his voice. He relaxes his shoulders. He allows a small pause before each reply. The argument loses oxygen. The other person either follows the slower rhythm or exhausts themselves alone. Slowing the moment is not passivity. It is dominance over tempo. Whoever controls tempo controls interaction. Fast tempo favors impulse. Slow tempo favors intention. Pressure tries to force speed. The disciplined man refuses the demand. He reclaims time as his territory. A surgeon understands this. Hands steady, breath measured, movements precise. Chaos outside the operating room does not enter his fingers. He is trained to slow the moment even when life is on the line. He does not panic faster. He thinks clearer. The stakes of daily life are smaller, yet men abandon composure as if the world is ending. The man who remains slow in small things will be steady in large ones. You slow the moment by returning to the body. One deliberate breath, one relaxed jaw, one conscious unclenching of the hands. The body leads the mind. A body that is calm instructs the mind to follow. Over time, this becomes automatic. Pressure arrives and finds no urgency to exploit. There is a quiet authority in a man who does not rush. He speaks when others finish. He moves without hurry. He decides without theatrics. People lean in. They trust his steadiness because it feels rare. In a world addicted to speed, the one who controls pace appears powerful without effort. He does not need to announce calm. He embodies it, and the moment bends around him, stretching just enough for him to act instead of react, leaving others wondering how he remained unshaken while they were carried by a current he never entered. Lesson 5. The fifth rule for staying calm under pressure is separating noise from reality. Calm is control, and control requires knowing what deserves your attention. Most men collapse under pressure not because the situation is truly catastrophic, but because they treat every signal as equally urgent. Every opinion becomes a verdict. Every message becomes a mandate. Every raised voice becomes a threat. The world grows louder, and they assume volume equals importance. It does not. Noise is cheap. Reality is precise. A man under pressure often hears 10 voices at once, colleagues offering advice, family expressing fear, media amplifying danger, his own mind narrating worst-case futures. None of these are reality. They are interpretations competing for dominance. The untrained man absorbs them all, tries to answer them all, fears them all. He becomes a servant of noise. Reality is always simpler than noise suggests. Consider a business setback. Numbers drop. Rumors spread. People speculate. One man reacts to gossip, restructures prematurely, sends frantic messages, broadcasts anxiety. Another man opens the ledger, examines facts, identifies what is actually true. He speaks only to that. He ignores commentary. The first multiplies damage by feeding noise. The second contains damage by anchoring to reality. Separating noise from reality requires inner quiet. If your mind is already loud, external noise merges with internal noise and becomes indistinguishable. This is why calm is not optional. It is the filter that lets you see clearly. Without calm, every stimulus becomes command. A partner speaks harshly in anger. Noise says disrespect, rejection, threat. Reality might be exhaustion, fear, misunderstanding. The reactive man answers noise. He defends, accuses, escalates. The calm man listens past the tone. He hears what is actually being said. He responds to reality, not noise. The conflict dissolves faster because he never entered the false battlefield. Noise thrives on immediacy. Reality endures under inspection. A man who has trained himself to pause will always have advantage here. He does not treat the first interpretation as truth. He allows time to reveal what is solid. This patience is not indecision, it is precision. The modern world profits from noise. Outrage sells, panic spreads, urgency hooks attention. Men become addicted to reacting. They feel alive only when stimulated. Then true silence feels uncomfortable. But silence is where reality becomes visible. Remove noise and what remains is manageable. Rarely as dramatic as imagined, often solvable. To stay calm under pressure, you must become ruthless with inputs. Not every message deserves reply. Not every opinion deserves consideration. Not every internal thought deserves belief. You learn to ask, is this signal actionable? Is it factual? Does it change my next step? If not, it is noise, and noise does not receive your energy. Attention is a finite resource. Spend it on noise and you starve reality. Spend it on reality and noise dissolves naturally. A man who can sit in a storm of voices and hear only what matters appears unshakable. Others drown in static. He moves cleanly. Over time, people notice. They bring him problems because he does not panic. They trust his judgment because he does not amplify chaos. They follow his lead because he distinguishes what matters from what merely shouts. Calm is not just inner peace. It is strategic clarity, the ability to see the real shape of a situation while others wrestle with shadows. And once you learn this separation, pressure loses its power to confuse you. It may still demand effort, risk, sacrifice, but it will no longer blind you with noise because you have learned to look through the clamor, identify the quiet line of truth running underneath, and place your actions there where they hold, while everything else continues shouting into emptiness. Lesson 6. The sixth rule for staying calm under pressure is commanding the body under stress. Calm is control, and the body is the gate through which control either enters or escapes. Most men believe pressure is a mental event. They say, I lost my temper, I got overwhelmed, I couldn't think. But the mind does not fall first. The body does. The breath shortens, the jaw tightens, the shoulders rise, the hands clench. And once the body declares emergency, the mind follows its decree without question. A man who has not learned to command his body will never command himself. Observe two men hearing the same bad news. One inhales sharply, chest stiff, eyes wide. His words come out clipped. His tone rises. His posture leans forward as if to attack or flee. He feels as though the situation is pressing into him. The other exhales slowly before speaking. His shoulders remain level, his gaze steady, his voice low. He feels as though he is looking at the situation from a step back. not pinned beneath it. Nothing external changed, only the body's posture toward the event. The body always leads the mind. If your breathing is shallow, your thoughts will be shallow. If your muscles are tense, your interpretations will be rigid. If your posture collapses, your sense of agency collapses with it. Pressure exploits physical disorder. It enters through tightness, rushed breath, restless motion. The disciplined man closes these doors first. Commanding the body is not athletic. It is deliberate. One controlled breath before responding. One unclenching of the jaw when irritation rises. One grounding of the feet when uncertainty appears. These gestures are small, invisible to others, yet decisive internally. They signal to the nervous system that there is no immediate threat. And when the body accepts safety, the mind regains range. A doctor delivering difficult news does not tremble. A pilot in turbulence does not thrash. A craftsman handling sharp tools does not flinch. Their professions force them to train the body to remain steady while stakes are high. But daily life holds stakes too: reputation, trust, authority, family stability. Men lose these not through lack of knowledge, but through uncontrolled physical reaction that broadcasts instability before a word is even spoken. The body speaks first in every interaction. Before your argument is heard, your posture has already testified. Before your answer is processed, your tone has already set the frame. Before your solution is offered, your agitation has already spread. If you wish to stay calm under pressure, your first task is not to fix the situation. It is to stabilize your physical presence inside it. There is a quiet discipline in a man who moves slowly when others rush, who breathes deeply when others gasp, who sits back when others lean forward. This is not detachment. It is command. He is telling his nervous system, I decide what level of threat this is. Not the event, not the other man's voice, not the speed of the room. One controlled breath can prevent a lifelong regret. One relaxed posture can keep a negotiation open. One steady gaze can diffuse a challenge before words ignite. The man who knows this does not see calm as an emotion. He applies calm as a technique. Again, 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 until it becomes identity. Eventually, pressure stops feeling like an invasion. It becomes an environment. And within that environment, his body remains a stable structure, not a shaken instrument. Others sense it. They feel anchored near him, or unsettled if they sought to dominate him through agitation. Either way, he has already won the first battle, mastery of his own physical response. And once that is secured, the mind follows behind it, settling into the quiet authority of a man who does not merely think calm, but physically inhabits it, so fully that even when stress presses in from every side, there is no opening through which it can enter. Lesson 7. The seventh rule for staying calm under pressure is using silence as a position of strength. Calm is control, and silence is one of its most direct expressions. Most men are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. They speak to prove presence, to display intelligence, to defend status, to avoid misinterpretation. They believe quiet is vulnerability. But silence is only weakness when it comes from fear. When it comes from choice, it is authority. A man who cannot tolerate silence will always reveal more than necessary. He will negotiate against himself. He will explain past the point of clarity. He will confess insecurity disguised as honesty. Under pressure, he will talk faster, louder, longer. The other side learns that time and noise make him leak information and emotion. He becomes readable, and what is readable is controllable. Silence conceals leverage. Consider an interrogation room. The one who speaks first after a question often exposes their position. The trained interviewer waits. He allows discomfort to mature. The subject speaks to escape silence, not to reveal truth. Yet truth slips out in fragments. This is not cruelty. It is understanding that humans seek release from tension, and silence creates tension. The disciplined man uses it without apology. In everyday life, the same law applies. A criticism is thrown. The reactive man answers immediately. The calm man allows the words to settle. He looks once, he breathes. He says nothing until he has chosen the exact response. Often, the pressure dissolves in the gap. The aggressor loses momentum. The room recalibrates. Silence has already done half the work. Silence is not absence. It is selection. In negotiation, the man who speaks less is often perceived as holding more power, not because of manipulation, but because he does not feel compelled to fill space. His words arrive with weight. Others measure them. They cannot predict his next move because he has not overexposed his position. He has options, and options are the foundation of control. At home, silence can prevent damage. A heated argument seeks escalation, words thrown like blades. The untrained man returns them. He believes responding equals respect, but respect without restraint becomes violence. The disciplined man knows when speech will only add fuel. He waits, not coldly, not dismissively, simply steadily. When he speaks, the tone of the conversation has already changed because he did not join the storm. Silence also protects dignity. Under pressure, people say things they later cannot stand behind. Silence gives the moment time to cool. It gives perspective time to enter. It gives pride time to stop flailing. Many relationships, careers, reputations are saved not by brilliant speeches, but by a man who knew when not to speak. The world misreads this. They call it aloof, unemotional, detached. But those who understand recognize it for what it is: emotional discipline, the capacity to contain without suppression, to observe without surrender, to remain present without reacting. A single sentence delivered after a pause lands harder than a paragraph delivered in haste. Over time, a man who uses silence well becomes difficult to provoke. Others learn that baiting him produces no immediate reward. They either escalate alone or abandon the attempt. He does not need to assert boundaries loudly. His lack of reaction is the boundary. This is how calm becomes visible. Not through soft words or soothing gestures, but through the refusal to spill inner state into outer chaos. The silence of a controlled man is not empty. It is dense. It carries the message that he is not owned by the moment, not rented by emotion, not drafted by another's urgency. And once this is established, pressure changes character. It stops being something that pushes him. It becomes something he allows to pass, quietly, without resistance, without noise, without surrender, leaving behind only a man still standing exactly where he chose to be. Lesson 8. The 8th rule for staying calm under pressure is detaching from the need to prove. Calm is control, and nothing destroys control faster than the hunger to demonstrate worth. A man who needs to prove himself is always in danger. One insult can redirect his day. One challenge can reroute his decisions. One doubt from another can make him abandon his own judgment. He is not led by reason. He is led by the imagined jury watching his every move. Pressure often attacks pride first. A colleague questions competence. A partner questions commitment. A stranger questions respect. The reactive man rushes to restore image. He explains excessively. He escalates. He accepts battles that were never his. He spends energy not on what is necessary, but on what looks strong. In doing so, he hands the situation control of his identity. Whoever provokes him now sets his agenda. The disciplined man understands that dignity does not require demonstration. It requires consistency. He does not feel compelled to answer every challenge. He does not enter every contest. He does not treat every raised eyebrow as a summons. He knows that proving is endless labor. There is always another audience, always another test, always another opinion. A man who lives to prove will never rest. Freedom begins when proving ends. Consider a disagreement where someone misunderstands you. The untrained mind scrambles to correct the perception. It overclarifies. It argues. It replays details. It seeks to force understanding. The calm man lets the misunderstanding exist long enough to see whether it matters. Often it does not. Often time corrects what argument cannot. He does not fight every misinterpretation. He saves his voice for what changes outcomes, not impressions. In leadership, this is critical. A leader who must prove authority becomes authoritarian. He raises volume. He tightens control. He micromanages. He reacts to every challenge as a threat. His team obeys from fear, not respect. The calm leader does not display dominance. He occupies it. He speaks rarely but decisively. He does not justify every decision. He lets results speak. Over time, his lack of need to prove becomes the very proof of his position. The need to prove is rooted in insecurity, but not the childish kind. The adult version is subtle. It hides behind competence, behind ambition, behind responsibility. A man may believe he is simply being thorough when he is actually seeking validation. He may believe he is being strong when he is actually defending an image. Detachment from proving requires brutal honesty with oneself. Ask, if no one saw this moment, would I still do this? If the answer is no, proving is in play. Pressure becomes unbearable when every situation becomes a stage, every crisis a performance, every response a statement about identity. The disciplined man removes himself from the theater. He handles what is in front of him, not what an invisible audience might conclude. This detachment does not make him indifferent. It makes him accurate. He no longer confuses necessity with display. He no longer confuses strength with aggression. He no longer confuses confidence with noise. He acts because action is required, not because image demands it. A man who does not need to prove can remain calm under insult, under doubt, under misunderstanding. He listens. He considers. He answers only what matters. Others feel disarmed because they cannot hook his pride. They cannot lead him by ego. He is not for sale at the price of approval. Eventually, pressure loses one of its favorite weapons. It can no longer threaten his image because his image is no longer his master. And in that moment, he stands in a quiet position few reach. A place where he does not need to convince, impress, or conquer, but only to observe clearly and act cleanly. And from there, calm is no longer a tactic. It is simply the absence of the frantic inner voice that once demanded to be seen, heard, recognized, and proven real through every reaction, every defense, every unnecessary word. Lesson 9. The ninth rule for staying calm under pressure is holding posture when everything pushes back. Calm is control, and posture is the physical signature of that control. Most men think posture is cosmetic, something for confidence seminars or military drills, but under pressure, posture becomes language. It tells the world whether you are bracing for impact or standing on chosen ground. And more importantly, it tells your own mind who is in command. When pressure rises, the untrained man shrinks. Shoulders round, neck retracts, chest collapses, eyes dart. He becomes physically smaller, as if preparing for a blow. Even if he speaks loudly, his body has already admitted defeat. The nervous system reads this contraction as danger and floods the mind with urgency. Thoughts race, emotions spike, reason narrows. He is now reacting from a body that has declared emergency. A disciplined man does the opposite. He lengthens his spine. He lets his shoulders drop back and down. He grounds his feet. His chin remains level, his gaze steady. This is not performance. It is alignment. A body that is upright signals stability, and the mind follows that signal. Breath deepens, vision widens, time slows, options appear. Your posture is the frame in which pressure is processed. Consider a difficult conversation. One man leans forward aggressively, crowding space, tightening muscles. The other mirrors or recoils. Instantly, tension escalates. Now the words barely matter. Bodies are already in conflict, but place a man in the same situation who remains seated back, spine tall, hands relaxed, face neutral. He changes the field. The other person either softens or feels their own aggression exposed against stillness. The posture has spoken before a sentence forms. In moments of crisis, posture decides leadership. In an emergency, people look for the one who stands composed, not the loudest, not the busiest, the one whose body says, "I am not overwhelmed." That is who others follow, not because he claims authority, but because his nervous system is not infecting the room with panic. This extends into private moments. Alone with fear, doubt, anticipation, a man hunched over his phone, curled inward, breathing shallow, will experience pressure as heavier than it is. The same man standing, shoulders open, breathing low, eyes lifted, will feel the identical situation as manageable. External facts unchanged, internal stance transformed. Posture is silent discipline. It must be trained before pressure arrives. Daily, in how you sit, how you walk, how you wait, how you listen. If you live collapsed, you will face crisis collapsed. If you live aligned, you will face crisis aligned. There is no shortcut. The body keeps score of every hour. Some men resist this. They think it artificial. They believe being yourself means letting the body express whatever it feels. But an untrained body expresses chaos. A trained body expresses order. And order is not fake. It is chosen. A man is not born composed. He builds composition. When everything pushes back, when voices rise, when stakes feel heavy, when uncertainty presses on the chest, posture becomes a decision. Either you fold into pressure or you meet it upright. This is not bravado. It is architecture. A structure that can bear weight does not panic when load is added. It holds. Over time, others notice without knowing why. They say you are steady, reliable, hard to rattle. They do not see the hours of quiet correction, the subtle adjustments, the refusal to slump into emotional gravity. They only see the result, a man whose body does not betray him when pressure arrives. And so, in the crucial moment, when reaction would be easy, when collapse would be natural, your posture keeps you anchored. You feel the push, you acknowledge it, and you remain upright inside it, not rigid, not defiant, simply unbroken, as if pressure were just another wind passing over stone, leaving no crack, no tremor, no concession. Only the quiet evidence that control has become embodied, and calm is no longer something you attempt, but something your very stance declares before you speak. Lesson 10. The 10th rule for staying calm under pressure is making calm a permanent discipline. Calm is control, and control that appears only in crisis is fragile. Many men can hold themselves together once or twice, fueled by adrenaline or pride. But when pressure becomes routine, when responsibility stacks, when uncertainty stretches over months instead of moments, temporary composure collapses. Only discipline remains. A man who treats calm as an occasional performance will eventually fail under sustained weight. He will be patient until tired, measured until insulted on the wrong day, steady until one more demand arrives than he can handle. Then the old patterns return. reaction, outburst, withdrawal, regret, not because he is weak, but because he built no foundation. He relied on willpower, and willpower is a limited resource. Discipline is different. Discipline is architecture. It does not ask how you feel today. It asks what you have practiced for years. The man who lives with structure in small things will show structure in large things. He wakes when he said he would. He eats without excess. He speaks without rush. He rests without escape. He works without chaos. None of these are dramatic. None are visible to an audience. But each one lays a brick. Over time, he becomes a place where pressure can exist without collapse. Most men wait for pressure to force them into discipline. That is backward. Pressure does not build, it tests. Training happens when nothing is at stake. Choosing restraint when no one is watching. Practicing silence when conversation would be easier. Breathing deeply when shallow breath would go unnoticed. Sitting upright when slouching would be more comfortable. These moments feel trivial. They are not. They are rehearsal. A soldier does not learn to stay calm in battle by reading about courage. He learns by drilling until movement becomes instinct. A pilot does not remain composed in a storm by wishing for calm. He trains until his hands move correctly, even when fear whispers. A surgeon does not gain steadiness by hoping for steady hands. He practices until steadiness is his default. A life is no different. Pressure will come in many forms: illness, loss, financial strain, conflict, responsibility for others. No speech will save you in those hours. No clever idea will replace the need for an inner system that does not break under load. The disciplined man does not guarantee success. He guarantees stability, and stability is what allows intelligent action when chaos surrounds. Making calm, permanent discipline does not mean erasing emotion. It means refusing to be ruled by it. Feeling fear without surrendering to it. Feeling anger without broadcasting it. Feeling urgency without obeying it. This is not suppression. It is hierarchy. Emotion is information. Discipline is authority. The reward is subtle. You become the man others look to when uncertainty rises. Not because you announce leadership, but because you remain functional when others fracture. You do not add noise to noise. You do not add panic to panic. You become the still point in a turning room. This is not glamorous. It is rarely praised. It often goes unnoticed until the moment it is needed most. But when it is needed, nothing else matters more. Calm is not a mood. It is a life built deliberately, brick by brick, choice by choice, breath by breath, until pressure no longer feels like an enemy, but simply another environment in which you already know how to stand, think, speak, and act, without rush, without collapse, without noise, because you have become the kind of man for whom control is not a reaction to chaos, but the quiet, permanent discipline of being fully in command of yourself.